picture this. It's pit road, seconds after the checkered flag at Atlanta. Two Toyotas, same team colors, and one driver is walking toward the other with his hand up, trying to say sorry. It doesn't go the way he plans. 5 days later, both of those drivers are heading into the most historic short track NASCAR has left, and NASCAR has just quietly ripped the safety foam out of every single bumper in the garage. Nobody is talking about why that happened this week, of all weeks. I am. North Wilkesboro Speedway is hosting a Cup Series points race for the first time since 1996. For 30 years, that sentence alone would have been the whole story. Fans have waited 3 decades to see these cars fight for real points on this 0.625-mile stretch of North Carolina asphalt, a track that once drew crowds of 60,000 people before it went dark and was brought back from the edge of ruin. But something changed this past week that has nothing to do with the track surface, the paint scheme, or the ticket sales. What if I told you the cars racing tonight on July 19th are not built the same way the cars that raced last week were built? Before we go further, if you're new here, this channel is NASCAR Voltage, and we are closing in on 500 subscribers. If breakdowns like this one are the kind of NASCAR coverage you actually want, hitting subscribe costs you nothing and it tells us to keep making more of exactly this. Every like, every comment, every share genuinely moves the needle for a channel this size, and your support is the reason we can keep digging into stories nobody else is covering this closely. Now, back to the story. On June 24, 2026, NASCAR issued a rules bulletin to every Cup Series team. The instruction was simple to write down and complicated to accept. Teams must remove the energy-absorbing foam from the front and rear bumper structure of their race cars. The bulletin also required teams to modify their forefront bumper struts. In plain terms, the cushioning that has protected the next-gen car from serious bumper damage since 2022 is gone, at least for 4 specific race weekends. Those 4 races are North Wilkesboro on July 19th, Richmond Raceway on August 15th, Bristol Motor Speedway on September 19th, and Martinsville Speedway on November 1st. Every one of them is a short track under a mile in length. That is not a coincidence. Since the next-gen car was introduced in 2022, bump-and runs and other contact between cars have not been able to move competitors out of the way they once could. Drivers could slam into the back of a car ahead of them with almost no consequence, and short-track racing, the kind built on aggression and payback, started to feel sanitized. NASCAR is now betting that softer bumpers will bring the contact, and the consequences, back. The mechanics of this change matter, so let's slow down for a moment. The standard next-gen bumper package has relied on energy-absorbing foam sitting inside both the front and rear structures. That foam was designed to protect the chassis and reduce the jarring impact a driver feels when contact happens. Removing it does 2 things at once. First, it makes the bumper itself weaker, meaning it deforms and takes visible damage from hits that used to leave no mark at all. Second, and this is the part drivers care about more, it changes how hard an impact actually feels inside the car. One long-running criticism of the next-gen design has been its stiffness, which transfers shock directly into the driver on contact. Reporting around the bulletin has framed this as drivers themselves pushing for the change, tired of being able to plow into a competitor at a short track without facing any real penalty for it. Notably, the Phoenix race that closes out the chase later this season was left off the list of affected tracks, which tells you this experiment is being run specifically on tracks under a mile, not applied league-wide just yet. That detail alone should tell you how deliberate this is. NASCAR is not guessing. It picked for short tracks, gave teams roughly 5 days of notice before the first one, and is watching closely to see what happens when the sport's most aggressive venue meets a car built to punish aggression again. Some drivers are not treating this lightly. Daniel Suarez has already described the North Wilkesboro race as 450 laps of boxing. That is not a throwaway line from a driver trying to sound tough. It is a warning about what 450 laps around a 0.625-mile oval with weakened bumpers might actually look like once the green flag drops. Inside the garage, this rule change has split the field into 2 camps, and the split is not subtle. One group of drivers has spent years arguing that the next-gen car made bumper shots consequence-free, and they welcomed this change the moment it was announced. The other camp, largely crew chiefs and engineers, built entire setups around the old bumper physics for a season that is already halfway finished, and now they are adjusting with less than a week's notice before the green flag. People close to several teams described this as a fundamental shift in how cars have to be raced, arriving with almost no time to prepare. Think about what that actually means at the shop level. Teams spend months calculating how a car will react in traffic, how much aerodynamic push it can absorb, how far a driver can lean on the car ahead before something breaks. Every one of those calculations was built around bumpers that did not deform easily. Now, 5 days before North Wilkesboro, engineers have had to rework strut geometry and retest how the front end behaves under contact, all while the rest of the season keeps moving. Some drivers see that scramble as a fair price for finally getting real short-track racing back. Others see it as NASCAR changing the rules mid-season without giving anyone time to properly adjust. And if that wasn't enough chaos for 1 week, Bubba Wallace's own team just turned on itself. Here is what happened at Atlanta on July 12. On the final lap of the Quaker State 400, Wallace crossed the finish line in second place. Officials reviewed the finish and ruled that he had advanced his position below the yellow line, a direct violation of Section 8.7.2.a of the NASCAR rulebook. His result was changed from a runner-up finish to 29th. Wallace and his 2311 Racing crew chief spent roughly half an hour in the NASCAR hauler contesting the call before officials confirmed the penalty would stand. Wallace's explanation was immediate. He told reporters, "It says don't go below the yellow line and gain your position. I didn't." He argued the shove that sent him below the line came from a car behind him, not from anything he chose to do on his own. That car behind him belonged to his own Toyota lineup. Ty Gibbs, a Joe Gibbs Racing driver aligned with Wallace's team under the Toyota umbrella, had already made contact with Wallace earlier in the race, spinning him through the grass at the end of Stage 2. After the checkered flag, Gibbs walked over to Wallace on pit road to apologize for that earlier incident. The conversation did not go well. Wallace later summarized it this way, "That's Toyota teammates, we don't race very well together." Gibbs gave his own account of the same exchange. He said the apology attempt fell apart because, in his words, he showed a lot of disrespect. "I don't know. Two teammates, same manufacturer, same paint scheme lineage, standing on pit road unable to agree on what had just happened between their cars." Then came the sting nobody expected. Denny Hamlin, who co-owns Wallace's own race team, publicly sided with Gibbs in the aftermath. Speaking on his podcast, Hamlin said, "My perspective is both guys should look at it through the other guy's perspective. For a driver already fighting NASCAR's rulebook, having his own team owner decline to fully back him in public is not a small thing. Wallace is not just defending himself against a penalty. He may be defending himself inside his own garage." Hamlin did not stop there either. He also said he was not entirely comfortable with the aggressive blocks thrown by his other 2311 driver, Tyler Reddick, during the same race, making it clear this was not simply an owner defending his own driver no matter what. The numbers make this worse for Wallace. That 27-point swing at Atlanta dropped him to 13th in the regular season standings, sitting just 55 points above the playoff cut line, after finishing outside the top 20 in 6 of his last 9 starts. With 6 races left before the post-season field is set, there is very little room left for another bad weekend. Now put both storylines next to each other. Wallace walks into North Wilkesboro carrying a stripped finish, a public argument with his own teammate, a team owner who did not fully back him, and a shrinking points cushion. At the exact same moment, NASCAR has softened the bumpers on the exact track where he needs to race his way back into contention, using the exact kind of physical, bumper-first racing that just cost him a result 5 days earlier. Does the new rule protect him from more contact chaos tonight, or does it strip away the one tool, aggressive bumper racing, that he might need most to claw back position under pressure? Nobody can answer that until the laps start counting. There is another layer to this that makes it even harder to call. Ty Gibbs races for Joe Gibbs Racing, a team aligned with Wallace's 2311 Racing through their shared Toyota manufacturer relationship, but not the same ownership group. That means these two drivers will line up near each other at North Wilkesboro on a track barely 0.6 of a mile long, running 450 laps with nowhere to hide and no long straightaways to create separation. If their softer bumpers do what NASCAR intends, contact that used to be shrugged off will now visibly damage both cars. On a track this small, with this much history between these two drivers this week, that is not a small variable. It is the exact condition that turns one bump into a story that follows both drivers for weeks. The reaction online has already started building. NASCAR reporter Matt Weaver posted video of the Wallace-Gibbs confrontation, simply captioning it, "A Bubber Wallace-Ty Gibbs disagreement." Veteran NASCAR insider Jeff Gluck noted that drivers had reportedly been pushing for the bumper change themselves, unwilling to accept getting hit with no consequence at a short track. Other insiders and beat writers picked the Atlanta penalty apart from there, some siding with Wallace's read on the contact, others backing Gibbs and Hamlin's version of events. This is not a story with a clean side to root for, and that is exactly why it has spread the way it has this week. In a few hours, the green flag drops at North Wilkesboro for the first Cup Points race there in almost 30 years. We find out if softer bumpers mean cleaner racing, or if North Wilkesboro just became the place where all of this finally boils over between two Toyota teammates who already cannot stand racing each other. Do you think the new bumper rule helps Bubber Wallace tonight, or hurts him? Drop your answer in the comments, because I genuinely want to see where this audience lands on it. If you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next, so make sure you're subscribed to NASCAR Voltage so you don't miss it. We're closing in on that 500 subscriber mark, and every single subscribe, like, comment, and share is what gets us there. Comment, share this video with another NASCAR fan who needs to see this, and I'll see you in the next one.